Hi friends, I'm Scott Giles, consulting hypnotist, life coach, and welcome to Saturday at 2:30. Every Saturday afternoon at 2:30 Central, I record a little video podcast on Facebook Live and which I will then edit and put on my YouTube channel and distribute more widely. I always touch upon some theme related to coaching, the hypnotic arts and sciences, or spirituality or theology, which is my topic today. Today, I want to talk about the religion and spirituality of Albert Einstein. Let me say out front that the conclusions Einstein came to in his religious and spiritual life are not the same conclusions that I have come to for different reasons. But we can all benefit by knowing the ideas of one of the greatest intellects who has ever walked the earth. My inspiration for choosing to shoot this video was something I saw on Facebook and also later encountered being circulated by email. The story is that there was this young boy in a class in the early 19th century, and the teacher asked the question of what is evil? And this young boy thought about it and said, well, it occurs to me that evil is the absence of good. It's not something that actually exists. It's merely the absence of something that does actually exist, God. Just like in physics, cold is the absence of heat. And that this boy who said this wonderful theological thing was named Albert Einstein. Isn't that wonderful? It is interesting, but it is complete garbage. Albert Einstein wrote extensively on his religious and spiritual beliefs, and that is not what he believed. I should mention that meme of evil being the absence of good, that's actually St. Augustine, who was quoting the Roman philosopher Boethius, not Albert Einstein. What Einstein believed came from his own background. He was raised in a secular Jewish family, but attended a Roman Catholic school. And very early, like about age 12, he came to the conclusion that the Bible could not possibly be true because it just contradicted too much of what science said. The creation narratives were improbable. But also there were things like, prophets raising their arms and the sun stops moving and then they lower their arms and the sun starts moving again, that kind of thing. And he came to believe that these were just legends and that's all they were, and they had no special importance other than the fact that accidents of history had somehow elevated them. Just a few months before his death, he actually said this: "The word God is for me nothing but an expression of human weakness. The Bible a collection of venerable but rather primitive legends. No interpretation, however subtle, can for me change anything about this. For me, the Jewish religion, like all other religions, is an incarnation of the most childish superstition. I cannot see anything chosen about them, the Jewish people, who consider themselves a chosen people." Einstein would appreciate the non-subscribing Christian church in Germany. These were the Christian churches that resisted Adolf Hitler and his attempt to take over and create a pure Christianity purged of all Jewish elements. But he respected them simply because of their political opposition to a person he regarded as very, very injurious to the human enterprise, not because he appreciated their theology. Einstein himself would not call himself an atheist. What he called himself was a religious non-believer, which means that he found he had some religious sensibilities, but he didn't believe in any particular religion. We sometimes today would call this spiritual but not religious. And it's, I think, a label that a lot of people in our society would choose. I, in fact, in my own thought, distinguish between religion and spirituality. Religion works in the horizontal plane. It unites us to other people, to a historical tradition through time, whereas spirituality is on the vertical plane. It unites us to a power greater than ourselves or more immanent within ourselves. It's something we do kind of with our solitariness, as the philosopher Whitehead would say, whereas religion is a communal thing. And that did not speak to Albert Einstein, not even a little bit. He didn't believe in heaven and hell. In fact, he subscribed, as many, many scientists do, to the philosophical theory called determinism. That is, that there's no free will. Everything we do is the result of universal causation. Something caused me to do everything that I do, and therefore I am not responsible for everything that I do because I'm responding to causes that are antecedent to that. It's a question that philosophers argue all the time, determinism versus free will. But Einstein wasn't buying it. He was a hard determinist. Everything was determined. You couldn't step out of the chain of causality, but you couldn't know what that chain was for you. You didn't know what you were going to do next, but what you were going to do next was nonetheless determined by what had come before. And he talked about this notion in the Bible by saying, I see only with deep regret that God punishes so many of his children for their numerous stupidities for which only he himself can be held responsible. In my opinion, only his non-existence could excuse him. What Einstein did is he believed in what he called cosmic religion. I think today we probably want to call that kind of a cosmic or mystical spirituality. He didn't believe that there was a God out there that was concerned with us as individuals and care. To some degree, what he was doing is called in theology deism, which is that God created the universe like a master clockmaker, wound it up, and then went away. What one of my colleagues calls the God that doesn't give a damn. And that we live in this superb clock, but God doesn't intervene. Things just happen according to the predisposition of the mechanical device. And he thought the universe was sort of like that. The thing that he did believe, and what gave rise to his spirituality, was that he felt he could sense within the universe an order deeper than just what human beings create. He thought there was, in fact, a harmony in the laws of physics, in the laws of mathematics, that could only be explained by some sort of an intelligent creator, but did not go so far as to say that that intelligent creator gives a flying damn about any particular human being. He loved the philosophy of the Jewish mystic Spinoza, and also the philosopher Schopenhauer. And I love Schopenhauer. His book, World as Will and Representation, one of my favorites. I've got 2 degrees in philosophy, and I chose not to get a PhD, but to go instead to the University of Chicago for my doctorate in ministry, becoming a clergyman. But had I stayed in philosophy, my dissertation would have been on Schopenhauer. And what Schopenhauer believed was that we can't know what's really out there. We could all be living in a matrix-like computer simulation, but we do know the impact it has on us as conveyed through our sense organs. And to some degree, we can decide what that impact means. And what Einstein believed, following Schopenhauer, is that there was an order that he could see, believe in the universe. And that became the source of his mysticism. He came up with a wonderful quotation, which I'm going to share with you. And I've seen this repeated many times in church hymnals. Congregations would actually say this in unison. Uh, Kind of bad faith because Einstein was not talking about congregational religion here. But what it says is the most beautiful emotion we can experience is the mystical. It is the power of all true art and science. He to whom this emotion is a stranger, who can no longer wonder and stand wrapped in awe, is as good as dead. To know that what is impenetrable to us really exists, manifesting itself as the highest wisdom and the most radiant beauty, which our dull faculties can comprehend only in their most primitive forms. This knowledge, this feeling is at the center of true religiousness. In this sense, and in this sense only, I belong to the rank of devoutly religious men. Now, we would degenderize that for current use, but you get the drift. Einstein's cosmic religion was not St. Augustine's notion of evil being the absence of good. It was a mystical experience of an order in the universe that he could perceive as he pondered the impact of the universe on his mind. And that gave rise to a sense of wonder and mystery and awe. And that was his religious faith. That is the religion and the spirituality of Albert Einstein. What I appreciate about this approach, first, his willingness to challenge the faith of his childhood. A lot of people don't do that. They stay in whatever faith tradition they were raised in. They never question it. They never examine it. He did. He had a willingness to explore new ways of being spiritual. And I think in a world where there's as much innovation as our world is, that willingness is really important. And finally, for me, this is the most important. He never shied away from hard questions like the existence of God, free will, and so on. He was willing to ask them of himself, knowing he wouldn't come up with a final answer. But he really wanted to ask the questions and believed he was better off for asking them. Members of the clergy and philosophy professors routinely have to deal with people who say, well, it's true for me, which means nothing. It trivializes the meaning of the word truth. When a person says a belief is true for them, all they're saying is they want to believe it for psychological reasons, and they don't appreciate your challenging their belief by calling it into critical examination. He didn't do that. He was perfectly willing to think about things that a lot of people shied away from. And that was his glory, and probably his accomplishments in mathematics and physics was also a result of his willingness to do the same behavior. Not to shy away, not to accept what he had been taught, but to question and to examine. So I hope you have found this to be interesting. I hope at least something of an antidote to the saccharine internet memes about Albert Einstein that are often out there. Thank you for your time and attention. I'll be back next Saturday with a different topic. And if I can be of help to you through hypnosis, a life coach, or in spiritual inquiry, please feel free to reach out to me through email, Facebook, my website, what have you. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and share. Stay well and stay safe.